You are listening to Jambo Radio Scotland, online on your smart speakers and on DAB digital radio in Edinburgh and Glasgow. You can download the Jambo Radio app on Google Play and App Store. Now it's time for our conversations with inspirational individuals in Scotland and beyond. This is a moment with Sade and Enoch.
on today's show, we'll be talking about a subject that's very, touchy to a lot of us, a lot of people, mental health. And I'm very grateful for Janet, who has agreed to come on the show today to share her experience. Some of it's painful, and hopefully there's something for us all to learn from it. So, Janet, for that, I'm very grateful. So before we dive further, just to tell you how you can reach us on the show today. So you can call us. We are on 0141 530 2787. We're also on WhatsApp 0745 990 6822, where you can send us a message. We're on Facebook, Jambo Radio Scotland. We're on Twitter at Jambo Radio 1. We are on Instagram, jamboradio.scotland. And if all that is not enough, you can still email us as well at info@jamboradio.co.uk. We're also on your app store as well. So I'm Apple and Android, so you can download the app and listen to us as well. So as I was saying earlier, today we are going to be chatting to Janet, or having a conversation with Janet around her experience, something deeply important to her. And also, the journey she's been on, the healing journey she's been on, from both painful and empowering. And I'm looking to learn a lot from the show today. And hopefully those of you that are listening are also looking to learn as well. So, Janet, to start today's show, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself without talking about what you do for work in 30 seconds?
Oh, wow, 30 seconds.
You work in financial service, so let's see how good your mathematics is. So you've just lost 4 seconds.
No, you should have said start now.
Now.
Okay, a little bit about myself. I'm Janet Londele. I am Congolese. I was born in Democratic Republic of Congo. I am a mother, a wife. I have 5 children. I'm a sister, an auntie to many little ones. And I'm sure some of you are probably trying to pick up on the accent. I definitely did not grow up in Scotland.
No.
But I've been here since 2009, so a good 15 years, but I predominantly grew up in England. So yeah,
fantastic.
That's 30 seconds.
That's 30 seconds. Well done. Well done. I think you're probably one of the very few that have actually kept it in. It's good though, because normally when you ask people what do you do, they say I am an engineer, I'm an blah 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 blah. So it's good to remove that and say who are you as an individual? How do we describe you? So you're a mother, you're a wife, you're a sister, you're Congolese, repping Congo. It's interesting. I was, I told you earlier I was at the Scottish Government House.
Yes. And
this Director General guy was showing me, he was really excited about it. He was like, so he was telling me that one of the areas he looks after, I like the way he described his role. He said, basically, I'm the guy that get things done. Okay. I'm like, yeah, you're my guy, you're my kind of guy. Like so then he listed like 10 areas that he looks after, including National Record of Scotland. So it was just showing me the census data, how they've broken it down into pieces where you can actually see where people are from. So for example, you can go into let's say your local area is Glasgow West, let's assume, right? So you can actually go online, there's an interactive map, go into Glasgow West, and then it begins to break that down for you on this. So it's like this cool interactive stuff. So you can start asking it for what do people in Glasgow West do? What's the average income in Glasgow West? And these things are sort of just popping up on the side. But the bit I was interested in was, I said you're from DRC, like where are people from? And of course, the Afro-Caribbean population has shot up since the last census. I think we're now up to 70 something. So we're now 1.3% of Scotland. So that's quite tangible, considering where we were at the last census. So, but he said you cannot break that down into where people were born. And as you can imagine, those Nigerians...
sensitive topic right now. I'm sure Nigerians took over that map.
Seriously. I was looking for Democratic Republic of Congo, but I think they are so little represented that they didn't show up in the data.
Oh, wow.
But you know what? Now you've got 5 children. I'm sure by the time they're
I hope they will tick that box.
That will cover.
And say they're from Congo. But there is actually a small Congolese community here in Glasgow.
And has that grown since you came in 2009? Has that grown in that time since you've been here?
I would say 100%. When I first came in 2009, there was a very, very few of Congolese people. But now the fact that you literally have a church, churches is definitely a good definition of. So
there's a Congolese church.
Yeah, there are. Yeah,
in Glasgow.
In Glasgow, yes.
Interesting. What's the church called out of interest?
No,
you don't go to church, do you, Janet?
Not go to church. But we'll definitely get into that conversation today why I don't go to church. But my faith is strong. I may not go to the building, but my faith is definitely strong.
Fantastic.
But yeah, so there's definitely a good community here in Glasgow, and also in North Lanarkshire. There's quite a good community around like the Hamilton area as well that I recently discovered.
And what's the big driver of people coming into Scotland from Congo? Is it to study? Is it asylum?
I do not believe that they're coming straight from Congo. Most of them come through London and then are sent, so obviously through immigration, etc. I'm sure you're aware London is quite overpopulated, so they do try to push a lot of
them
that
across the country.
And Scotland, Glasgow, obviously with the whole immigration laws and stuff, so a lot of people were being sent this way. Definitely not bad choice.
Are some coming from Europe as well, considering Congo is a French-speaking country?
Yes.
So are some of them coming from France? Is there...
No,
not so much.
I feel if Congolese people are here in the UK, should I say, it's very intentional.
Yeah.
Because in France, I was even there recently, like I can't even speak in Lingala because everyone is speaking it, so I'm better off speaking in English. Whereas here, if I was walking around the street with my sister, for example, we'll be talking in Lingala because you obviously want to sort of have a bit of that privacy. But there's definitely a huge Congolese presence in France and Belgium.
Yeah, fantastic. So your name? Londele.
Londele, yes.
Londele. So I'm always interested or fascinated by names. So what does Londele mean?
I cannot tell you because I inherited it from my husband.
Was that part of the checklist before getting married? Like, what does your name mean exactly? Just so I know what I'm signing up to.
He's probably listening now and thinking, Janet, how can you not know what Londele means? No, actually, I don't know what Londele means, but it is from the tribe of... like a Swahili tribe where my husband's mother is from. So they're called like Lokele, and they speak Swahili. So that's where the Londele name comes from.
Okay, interesting. So there are Swahili people in Congo?
Yes, we do. My mother-in-law speaks fluent in Swahili, but there is a little tone that's slightly different in comparison to, let's say,
maybe Kenyans.
From Kenya or Tanzania. So there's a little differences, but they can definitely engage.
So apart from Swahili, is there another language in that area?
We have loads of languages.
You speak Lingala?
DRC has 2 national languages. We have French and Lingala. So French was obviously the language of the colonizers, and Lingala, I would say in recent years with the whole woke population, a lot of us are really trying to bring back that, our core values of our languages, etc. Whereas I would say me growing up, I wasn't allowed to speak Lingala. I actually learned Lingala in the UK.
No way.
I could hear it, I could obviously understand it, but I like if I tried to speak, like everyone would make fun of me. But whereas now I can definitely, and they'll still make fun of me, but I'll definitely engage in better conversations. But it was deemed a language of uneducated people.
Yes, of course.
So obviously if your parents were
educated,
etc.,
just speak French.
But interestingly, your tribal language was much more acceptable than Lingala. So both my parents were from the Luba tribe. So I actually spoke fluently Chiluba as a child because I was brought up by my grandparents. So hopefully we'll touch into that later on. So I spoke French and Chiluba, but obviously over the years I kind of lost the language, but I do still hear it. I still understand it.
So you speak French, English, Lingala,
yes.
and a bit of Chiluba.
Chiluba, yes.
Is there anything you don't do or you can't do?
Anyway,
we'll get into that. Cantonese. We'll get into that. So tell us. I mean, you've touched on it slightly around church, grammar, and everything. So tell us about your upbringing. So you grew up in Congo. Tell us about your early childhood, say the primary school years, or maybe up to secondary school. What was that like? Very
complicated because my father and mother divorced when she was pregnant with me, and so
were you the catalyst for that?
Hi, sensitive topic there. Sensitive.
Okay, then.
If my sister is listening, she was like, "Oh my God, he went there." No, I certainly wasn't. There were other issues surrounding that. Yes, but I was third with my mother and father. But it just happened that when they divorced, she was pregnant with me. So she then moved back home to her parents, so I was brought up in my grandparents' home. My mother was a businesswoman, so she was really an absentee parent. It's fair to say.
You're brought up in your grandparents' home. Is that your mom's parents? Or
yes, my mother's parents. Yes.
And then your mom was just busy with work, business.
Traveling
and then
a lot.
I guess dad was just doing his own thing.
Dad took my siblings
2 kids,
and remarried, and he lived somewhere else. But to cut a long story short, didn't want anything to do with the child or the mother. And my grandfather actually, from how I understand the tribal requirement, had to pay dowry in order to actually be able to take care of me, like on a traditional capacity. So I was literally his responsibility. Because
so your grandfather paid dowry to your dad?
My father's family, yes. Something similar to that, to sort of say, since you don't want anything to do with the child, I'm taking full responsibility. I was actually at birth, I was named by my grandfather, and my name was Marlene. So Marlene in English. I don't like it in English at all. So I was named Marlene.
What does that have a meaning?
It was my grandmother's name. So he gave me both her name Marlene as well as her tribal name Mianda, which I've then given to my daughter as a first name. But Mianda will normally be your sort of tribal representation, like a middle name type of thing.
And what does it mean? Does it mean something?
Mianda, again, there might be some diverse views on that, but it means like a storyteller. So it's the person that brings news. Some people will say bad news bringer. But I would like to take it as a news bearer. So that's what Mianda means. Yes. Mianda Bo is how you would normally say it. Yeah.
So that was sort of the early years, growing up with grandparents. Your siblings were with your dad. And then, so what happened around the age of 10? You moved to Italy around that time?
So before that, at the age of 6, my father, I guess, had a change of mind. Of course, who wouldn't have a change of mind for
as you would.
So he then, again, at the time, I guess, parent or fathers had more rights than the mother, so he decided that he wanted to start spending time with me. So I started visiting my father at his home and then my siblings, etc. And then I find out that apparently my father named me Janet in the French version of Janet. So I would go to my father for the holidays and I'll be Janet, and then I'll come back and I'll be Marlene. So then after...
Out of interest, because money has changed hands, right? So I mean, dowries has changed hands. So was that returned at this point?
Oh, that I don't know. I should actually ask my mom if she's aware of that. That I don't know. I will ask her tonight.
I feel like someone owes. There's some payments being made there.
Something owed. But yes, so then we did this for about a year, and around the age of 7, he then decided he wanted to take me full time. And if I recall from what I knew, what I was like as a child, I was a very much I had an adult mind, and I was on the mission, almost like I wanted my father and my mother together. So I feel that I definitely used that in the sort of space that I used to go in. So when I would go to my dad's house, I would definitely be like, don't you miss my mom and stuff like that, really like being very. So all of a sudden, it was then decided that I would move with my father full time. So I left everything that I obviously knew, my grandparents, etc. And it was literally a full cutoff. I had no interaction.
The cutoff, was that driven by you or your dad?
No, my father.
Okay,
my father, yes. From how it was explained to me, it was that as a parent, he felt that his children needed to have one set of education, whereas my grandparents, the way they raised their kids was more the Western way. Yes, they were strict, but they were a bit more, they would allow you to make choices and things like that, which probably explains why I was quite an outspoken child. Whereas my father, the way he sort of brought us up was a lot stricter. However, he was still very soft as a father. Like the way people talk about him, it's totally different to how I remember him. But he decided that he wanted me full time, and that was basically at the age of 7 I was taken away. And it wasn't even like I was told beforehand. I went on holiday, and then my father
within Congo.
So Kinshasa, like they literally lived, like I would say, if somebody like Adrian, Glasgow, that's even too far, like 10 minutes away from each other. But as a child, obviously,
that seemed far.
Yeah, it definitely seemed far. But without having those sort of freedom to go where you want when you're in the house, that's all you know. So at the age of 7, my father took me, and didn't have any contact with my mom's side of the family at all. And when I was 10, there was then an opportunity for me to go and live with my aunt. Basically, that was quite normal at the time, better education, etc. So that was really the intent. And at the age of 10, after 3 years of living full time with my father, I had to leave another home again.
Go to Italy. Yeah, that must have been a lot of pain. Leaving your grandparents, that must have been painful. Those were your parents for 7 years.
Yes.
And then now you're leaving your new parents and your siblings. So why you? You had 2 folks ahead of you, so why were you the one, should I say, selected? Or?
I hope my sister's not listening, but I was the smartest.
Okay.
So, and literally, I was, and it was
academically.
Yes. And the ways is all.
Oh well. They're gonna be explaining a lot after this show.
Academically, and that was basically it. The challenge was if you get certain results throughout the year, that would be the gift, and that was the gift that my father gave me.
Okay, so you then moved to Italy. Were you excited about the move, or?
Absolutely, I was definitely excited. It was still very scary to obviously leave everything, but I was going to Italy. I was going to Europe, Porto, as we say in Lingala. So it was very exciting for me.
Okay, so Italy. What country? I mean, what city was this?
Rome.
Do you remember? Rome. Oh, okay.
Yes,
yes. I've been to Rome. I
very
think it's
beautiful.
Okay, I'll stop what I was about to say. I'll pack that aside.
we'll talk afterwards.
I'll pack that aside. Okay, Rome. Cool. Okay. Yeah, Rome. Yeah, beautiful. I agree.
Yes.
It's a beautiful city. My memory of it was they have really small cars.
Oh Lord, did they?
Yes, I remember that clearly.
In 1992.
Yeah, I mean, compared to the cars in the UK, the cars, because there's no space, right? So the cars are tiny.
See, maybe in your eyes that might seem tiny, but
no, you as a child,
totally
they're small cars. And
yeah.
what else do I remember about our city? They like white cars.
Oh.
Like almost all the cars on the road was white. I mean, I don't normally notice things, but a few minutes after getting to Rome, I was like,
interesting.
They love white cars.
Again, I'll definitely look
at it. Just random stuff that I pick up. But anyway, so Rome, got to Rome. So I'm trying to understand what this auntie is. So this auntie is I'm guessing you're on your dad's side.
My father's sister.
Your dad's sister. Yeah. She has a family in Rome, I'm guessing.
Yes, so she was married with 2 boys at the time. One who was 2 years younger than me, and the other one 4 years younger than me.
Okay, so you're the oldest. Okay.
Yes, and she was expecting as well.
Right.
At the time. So married. with 2 kids and one on the way. Yeah.
Okay. And the whole family were all Congolese, so it wasn't a mixed family.
Yes. Her husband as well was Congolese.
Okay.
Yes,
And had you met her before you went to Italy?
Yes, and again, we shared names. So my father named me after her.
Okay,
so
Janet, okay.
Yes. And she used to come and visit. If I can maybe say, I remember her coming twice, and that was always exciting, right? Having an aunt or a family member come from Europe, so you get the new clothes and the stuff. And
I know. I'm actually just thinking of it now. Yeah, I know.
So I did meet her a couple times.
Okay, so you were excited and to go to about the prospect of actually living with this person you've been looking up to an extent.
100%.
Okay, so you got to Rome at the age of 10, and then some bad things happened, right?
Yes.
I don't know. Do you want to take us through that?
Absolutely. So it was pretty much immediately that I noticed the change. So as I said, I grew up with my grandfather, who was really well off. So we were definitely, taken care of hand on foot. My father was a pilot, so he also had, house help and things like that. But he definitely did have certain values. So, weekends we used to like clean and stuff like that, but nothing serious. Obviously, because we had older siblings who did a lot more. But very much immediately, I noticed that I would be asked to do, certain things around the house, like cleaning, the whole house. And we're talking.
So this is in Rome?
Yes,
okay.
Yes. She had everything was like in an apartment, but it was like 3 bathrooms, 3 bedrooms, living room, kitchen, and stuff like that. So I would basically be expected. And if you think a 10-year-old body cleaning a house of that size, like, top to bottom. And even to the point, like, this image is very vivid with me. Like, she would literally have me like scrub the inside of the toilet and be like, you need to put your hand inside and really scrub it properly. Like, literally, I became a maid in Europe. And there were things that would happen, like where she would expect me to be doing the cooking. And obviously, I'd never cooked before, in my life. And there were things that, you need to do this and that. And if something burned, for example, like, I would get in so much trouble for things like that. So there was definitely little things that, I started to notice, like, this hasn't turned out to be at all what I expected. Yes, I was going to school and stuff, but even to the point where I used to do the grocery shopping, for example. And I remember, like,
you physically go
go to the supermarket with a whole list of things. And I used to, and I'm not joking, I used to put the stuff in the bag. Like, I would probably have 10 bags and put them so that they can have equal weight. And I would literally set them up like this. So one will go over my shoulder, a couple will be here, and then one there, and I would do the same on both sides and then walk home. And one time my teacher was in the same supermarket, and she was like, oh, is everything okay? Where are your parents? And I lied. I said, my mom is actually, but you could, like, even now looking back, and I'm like, she knew I was lying through my teeth. And I'm sure she probably watched me carry that stuff and things like that. So so there were, things like this that she would have me do. And obviously there was also, I would really be like smacked and, kicked. Like, if you think how gangsters will jump on someone, this person would do that to me as a 10-year-old person because I burnt, the food that I was supposed to be cooking, for example. And it got worse when her marriage then dissolved, and the husband basically left her with the kids. And because she was a stay-at-home mom, he literally took the finance and everything. So again,
security.
Everything that I knew back home felt like I was living in the ghetto, and Congo was definitely the poto in comparison. So to the point where we were living in Italy, in Rome, no electricity, and she ended up purchasing like the gas tankers that we used to use for cooking. And I remember I had like this little radio that I used to like play to sort of entertain the kids. And at this point as well, she had the baby.
Okay, of course.
So she found like a job, I think it was like a cleaning job or something. So I would then be left at home with 3 children to
including
look after,
a baby.
including a baby. And with this, my little radio that was battery operated. And I don't know if you know this, but in Congo, growing up, they used to tell us, like, if you want your batteries to last longer, or if it looks like it's dying, put it in the freezer. So I literally used to put these batteries in, and I don't know if it's true, but every night those batteries will be in the freezer so that I can make use of it the next day and entertain the kids and things like that. So, and with that said, that whole situation really did put a huge mark on me, despite everything that I was going through with her personally. But that in itself, I was like, I never want to be that person. I never want to put so much on another individual financially to find myself in that position. So for me, it was always like, I need to work hard in school, do really well in school so that I can get a great job, and, you know, being able to sort of provide for myself. Wow.
That was a lot.
That
was a lot. And so I'll just sort of dig into it here and there. So while this was happening, you've mentioned education was still ongoing.
Yeah.
I guess you were still in primary school, going to secondary school type thing.
Yes.
And you were still excelling academically.
Yes.
And was there no interaction with your family back home?
Oh, very interesting question. So after before the marriage dissolved, the husband was doing another trip to Kinshasa. So they told me to write a letter to my father. And I had a really good relationship with my dad. You know, despite the small years, as I said, he was definitely a friend. Like my father would notice things with each one of his children without you even saying a word. If I was sad, my father would come and be like, "What's wrong?" You know, I wouldn't even need to say anything. So I wrote a letter to my father, and I remember it starting with, "What did you do to me? Why did you send me here?" And I was in tears, like writing this letter. You could literally see like the teardrops on that letter, right? And I said, "I don't want to stay here. I want to come home. Do whatever you need to do. Bring me home." And I sealed the letter and I gave it to her. Next morning, I get it thrown on my face. "What kind of letter is this that you're writing to your dad?" And she asked me to rewrite that letter. And one of the things that kills me till this day is my father never got to know. I'd like to think that to some extent maybe he had an idea, but the fact that he passed without him really knowing like that decision, what it did to his favorite daughter, you know, really, really kills me. And I had to rewrite that letter, making it out like everything was fine and everything, and then send it off. Obviously, you know, yes, there were telephones, but, you know, calling Africa, you know, those days, like no one wanted that kind of smoke, you know. So it was definitely like whenever there's an opportunity that someone's going, you write a letter and things like that. So so I ended up writing to my father a letter that was rewritten,
saying everything was good, you're having a great time. So you mentioned telephone. So was there no phone calls?
No, never had any phone calls.
Okay.
Not, at least not until we went to the UK. I remember having one telephone conversation with my father, but not whilst I was in Italy. No.
Okay. So while all this was happening, when did you start realizing this is not normal, this is abuse? At what point did that become apparent to you as a young child?
I don't think I can say that I knew this was abuse. I knew that this was different than what, you know, I was used to, because getting beat up wasn't abnormal, you know, especially for us back home. I don't know how it is for you.
But the treatment is different to the treatment of our children, I'm guessing.
Yes. Yes,
like,
it definitely was.
Clearly different.
Yeah, and it was more apparent, especially when, like, you know, back to school, for example, and they will get all the branded things and stuff, and I would literally have secondhand, and I mean literally from the charity shop. That's what I used to get. So there was definitely differences in treatment. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. And what I always think is, did she intentionally do all that, or did she go out of her way to do that, or was she just like that? Because it takes a bit of intentionality to do all that. Like the example of
both.
Yeah, the example of the bags. Like the kids will get this, you get it. That's intentional. That's saying, no, you're not getting this. I'll get you the crap one. Intentionally.
Yeah. I think there's an element of it's probably her character. However, when it came to specific treatment of me, because when we moved to the UK, my sister was then in the UK. So my sister moved, it was either the next year or the same year, but a few months later, but she moved to the UK.
Right.
With another sibling of my father. But she gets on really well with my sister. And with me, it was different. So years later, there was again another big thing that happened with the family. And literally, she told me that I carry a spirit of separation. So when my father, that's what I was saying, sensitive topic earlier. So when my father, when I was conceived, my mom and dad, and then I came to live with her marriage dissolved, and I moved to the UK. You know, they used to get on fine with my sister, and then I sort of created something for them to no longer have good relationship with my sister. So, and that I would say the extreme of what she was doing to me was that feeling that she had. And I'm sure you've heard these stories before. There's been plenty of documentaries as well about especially Congolese children being branded, you know, witches and things like that. And so to see now, after she said that, that's pretty much what she perceived me to be, this entity that came into her household and destroyed everything.
She was horrible to you before our separation.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not the case that you caused
there is a difference.
Okay.
So it wasn't that she was horrible. For her, it was like I owed her. I had to come and then and then, you know, do what I needed to do to sort of pay her back, like the cleaning and stuff like that, because that's what I was to her. I was her, you know, personal assistant.
It's crazy because you're actually you're a niece.
Yes.
You know, like some long distance. I mean, you shouldn't do that to anyone, but you're actually a niece. That's heavy. Okay, so Rome wasn't working out for her. You were still with her, and then I'm guessing, based on what you just said, you guys moved to Europe. You moved to the UK. Yeah. What was the driver for that for her?
So she had two sisters in the UK, which sort of made sense for her to come. And I think as well, like the UK was offering a bit more help for, you know, single moms, etc. So there was definitely a better opportunity for her to move to the UK.
And that was, what city did she end up?
London, well, Essex, should we say. So we lived, our first house was in Ilford.
Okay. So moved to the UK. Around what age
were you? So this was 1993. So literally I was in Italy for a year. And 1993 came to the UK.
So you were in Italy for just 1 year?
Yeah.
So it's in the space of 1 year that all that happened. Yes. Marriage broke down, all the beating, all the cruelty. Moved to the UK. So you were around age 11-ish.
Yes,
in the UK. And then your sister was now in the UK with another sibling. Also in Ilford or all over the place?
We lived in separate houses. She lived with another sibling of my father's. Separate houses, but not too far. Okay.
And you said when you spoke to folks back home was when you were in the UK. Was this when that call happened, or was it much later?
No, this was much later. I was a teenager at this point,
And where was your mom in all this?
Still MIA. Well, again, we were not allowed to have any contact with my mother's side of the family. So there was literally no contact from the moment... well, first of all, my sister and my brother, left with my dad. There was no contact. When I moved with my father, again, it was the same thing. So we literally didn't know anything. I actually remember one time there was a church conference, and this lady was saw me and she called me Marlene. She's like, Marlene. And I don't know why I was like, that's not me. But she obviously recognized me. And so
that was in the UK?
Yeah, so that was in the UK, yes. So that was probably the closest. And then apparently later on, it came out that it was actually my aunt, my mother's sister, who, it was her friend, and she was like, I know my nieces are in the UK, so when you go, just be on the lookout. And so when she recognized me, apparently there were some conversations in behind closed doors that we were not privy to, and they refused contact as well at that stage.
Fantastic. Okay, then, so I guess when you're in Ilford, England for a few years, and at this point, was the abuse still ongoing?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't want to put it as it was constant, because there was definitely times where it felt like we were family. And she was the only mother that, and I was calling her mom. She was the only mother that I knew, and I definitely would always go above and beyond to make sure that I would please her. So whether it being ensuring that the cleaning gets done and everything, I'm a night owl, right? And that really stems from that. I used to do everything that needed to be done in the house, put the kids to bed, and around about 11, that's when I would then start, whether it being studying or doing my own hair, etc. And then I'll go to bed at like 3 or whatever, and then you start all over again the next day. Like, there were people who used to say, every time they come to see, Janet's always in the kitchen. Like, every time they visit, why are you always in the kitchen? Why are you always doing something? Like, is there no one else to do this stuff? Like, literally, that was my life. Like, looking after everyone, looking after the household, and then, trying to also get an education at the same time. There was even a comment that she made during my GCSEs, so for the Scottish people, that would be your
roughly Nat
5, yes. And my another aunt's husband came, and again he noticed a few times, these situations around exam time, and he's like, this girl should be studying. Like, why do you have her doing all these things? And her answer was, oh, she's smart, so she'll be fine. That was literally her answer. She's smart, so she'll be fine.
But and I'm guessing at this age, not guessing, our kids are now also grown.
Yes.
Were they also picking things up?
I was really close with her eldest.
Okay.
It's not the case today, unfortunately, but we were extremely close.
Yep.
And we used to talk a lot with my cousin, and he definitely expressed how unfair it was, the treatment from his mother to me. And actually it got to the point where I became a teenager. I got a boyfriend and she found out about the boyfriend, and hell was before, but this was like, I don't know what's worse than hell, but it broke. And literally, I remember I had braids, and she beat me up. I had chili, hot pepper put into my eyes, and this is all part of the punishment. And she felt like this wasn't enough. So she used to be she used to make clothes.
Okay.
So she had all of like the the really big industrial scissors that they use for clothes. So she literally grabbed that and started cutting my hair with the braids, right? Like literally going through it. And she's shouting all sorts and blah, blah, blah. And then, bam, she hits me. Like, she was like, stop moving. And then she just went bam on my head. And I just remember just blood just coming out of me. And you think that would be enough
that
to
should be like, okay,
scare
that's
someone.
enough. Yeah.
And it didn't. She carried on, and then she told me to stay on my knees. So I've got all of this blood coming out of me. And actually, at the time, my grandmother was in the UK. And again, I don't want to get too much into that, but my grandmother, my father's mother, was in the UK with us. And this was shortly after my father's passing. So she used to cry all the time from the treatment that she was seeing her child doing to her grandchild, to the point where I would come back from home, and my mother wasn't, in the best shape. She was really heavy. She had knee problem, back, like all sorts, diabetes and all of that. So I would come home from school, and this is probably the only thing that would really set me off. And she used to come, and she'll be like, I've already cleaned all of the fish for you, like everything is done. All you have to do is she'll really
just
go
try
out.
To alleviate
some of that.
Yeah.
But every night this woman will be crying in Chiluba. So as I said, because I grew up with my grandparents, I used to understand Chiluba fully. And she would cry in Chiluba like as if she was speaking to my father, and just like really crying about what she's seeing being done to her granddaughter. So it was actually my grandmother who then cleaned all of the blood off of me and then asked me to go and have a shower. And the next morning, I actually woke up in the bath because apparently I wasn't waking up. So rather than somebody taking me to hospital or whatever, they put me in the bath to sort of wake me up properly. Yeah. So I was awoken. Apparently I'd passed out at some point. I was awoken in the bath, and it was my grandmother who sort of like tidied up the shaving, because obviously, my hair was all over the place. And the next day, when my brother went to school, he finally broke, and he told about everything that happened. And
he told the school?
The school,
okay.
Yes. And my best friend at the school at the time obviously knew everything. I used to share everything with her. And they obviously called her in as well, because they obviously knew we were really close. So she obviously confirmed that everything he was saying was true. So I was put in a foster home. And I don't want to get too much into it, but I was definitely failed by the system as well, because I was brought back after maybe a long weekend. And my aunt was basically telling them in the best way in English that, yes, I will change and blah, blah, blah. And then at the same time, as she's speaking to them, she's also speaking in Lingala, like telling me, like, if you think you're going to ever get away from me, you won. And so as this was happening, obviously the social worker is like, is everything okay? What is she saying? And I just wouldn't say anything. Yeah. But there were words that my foster parent that I was with for that long weekend, and she said something to me whilst I was there, and she was just like, the system is broken. And she said to me, like, you just need to decide if you want out and you don't want to go back there, you need to speak up, or you need to take actions. So as this was happening and the social workers left, and those words kept playing in my head, and the front door was locked. And I remember going out the back door, knocking at the neighbor's house, and I just pretended as if I locked myself out, went to the front and left. And I called my father's other sister, not the one that my sister was living with.
Okay.
And I said, would you take me in? And she took me in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's powerful. I guess at this age you were 16?
I was 16-ish.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Right. I can't believe time has gone.
Oh wow, is it already at time?
I can't believe time has gone. So take us through then from all that, from that moment where that woman gave you that, should I say, word of inspiration of you are the one that can change your situation. And at such a young age, you took that, went, knocked the door, and then you changed your situation, I guess. How did you then go from there to ending up in Scotland and doing the things you do today?
Oh, wow.
I know it's a big jump.
It is, because a lot happened in between, even moving with the other aunt. So I went from, abuse, verbal, physical, to, then I'm now a teenager, fully developed, to now there are other challenges, that I can't say it's the worst thing that a woman can go through, but definitely at that age,
Yep.
it was bad.
Okay, so there was some abuse there as well.
Yes, but not from the aunt.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. Do you want to go into it, or you don't want to go into it?
If we have time,
Yeah, let's
I'm
quickly
more
dive
than
into it then. So, is this from someone associated with your hands? Or?
Yeah, so her husband,
Okay.
definitely, he didn't go all the way, but there was things that he would do, and that would really make me feel like this is not right.
Awkward,
Even one time bribing me with, if you want to know more about your mother, I have information, but you need to give me something in return. And I said no, because I really loved my aunt for everything that she represented for me at the time. She was the mother that I needed. She was everything for me. So then this man, because I rejected his advances, decided that I would then become a target for him in the house. So a lot of things happened, but that wasn't even the worst. The worst happened with my father's youngest sibling, who definitely abused his rights as an uncle, and that actually did go far. I'm trying to skip a lot of things in between
this was
without
happening
giving
in
context.
England?
So in England, but
Okay.
at this point, this aunt that I'm talking about moved from London to Manchester.
Okay.
So my father's younger brother then also moved in Manchester.
So he came to stay with you guys?
Yes,
Okay.
at some point, yes.
Okay.
So there was a bit of an incident that happened in Manchester. Again, we're close to 18, etc. And, just exploring ourselves, whether it being through, relationships and things like that. But that was not allowed, right? So some of this information came to light through the husband. So when he found out, he whispered to his wife, and we traveled to London to celebrate the Italy aunt 50th birthday or something. And then all of that stuff came to light, and there was a big family meeting, and that's when she basically told me all these things about me having spirit of separation, and it was a huge deal. So because it involved both myself and my sister, and basically they decided that my sister would move to some other family member's house, and I would remain in London and move with my father's younger brother. And he had a wife, and she just had a child as well. And so that decision was made the morning of. My sister disappeared, and that was her out. And that's her story to tell. We're not going to get into that, but she left. So I was then left by myself because my ally is no longer here. So moved with the uncle, and it started with little things like, he was always like the cool uncle, right? Because he was the youngest of my father's siblings.
So was the one closest to you guys in age.
Closest to us in age. So, would take us sometimes like clubbing and things like that. So there was always a good sort of relationship.
Yeah.
So it started with things like, hugging and stuff like that. And, you wouldn't really think too much of it. But hugging turned into other things. And so it then became like this is more. And then, without going into the gory details, he did something that I didn't want. And so that was the first time I felt trapped, because unwanted, first of all, because all family members obviously at this point had rejected us. My sister wasn't around, and for me it was like life just keeps throwing things at me, and this could just be it. The wife was there. There was times literally my bedroom door was next door to the wife, and he would leave his wife in her bed, come into mine. And this is one thing where I'm just like, sometimes women, we need to do better, because she turned the blind eye to the abuse that her husband...
So you reckon she was aware?
She was, because there were times where she would intentionally come out of the room and then leave her room door open. So you can obviously see that she either wants to catch him or something like that. I don't know. And so this happened for the best part of like 3 months or something. And I had enough, but I had enough in the sense that I didn't want to be part of this world anymore. And so I had a couple of bottles of paracetamol that I just said, I'm just going to have this until it's over. And I'd taken a few, and there was a friend at the time who called me on his mobile phone. And at the time, we used to obviously get credit and things like that. And this person wouldn't get off the phone. And you know, when you're just like talking about nothing, you know, and I wasn't even doing much of the talking because I'm just like, I just need you to get off the phone so I can finish what I'm doing. And I fell asleep. I fell asleep on the phone. And I woke up in the morning and I was like, okay, this is something, this is a sign that wasn't meant to be, that was literally, you know, divine intervention. Whatever reason that person called me, what the driver was, I don't know, but I get it. So my sister got in contact and shortly after that, and I shared everything with her at this point, and she made arrangement for me to flee from that house.
Fantastic.
Literally in the middle of the night, I took a coach. She was in Liverpool then at this point. Yeah. And I took a night coach to Liverpool, and that was
from Manchester.
Yeah.
From Manchester. Okay,
Yeah.
so that was about 1 hour.
Yeah, and that wasn't the worst part.
Okay.
I get to Liverpool and I find out that I was with child.
Okay, so
yeah.
we're supposed to sort of cover this whole story on this show, but it looks like we're going to have a part 2. This is the first
We may
time.
have to, because one of the reasons I wanted to really share my journey is obviously, you know, we want to start something or revamp something with BPU. And I want people to understand where I'm coming from and who I am as a person, that it's not just someone who just wants to come and talk to you about taking care of yourself or just to talk. Because if I'm comfortably talking here, my husband is also listening somewhere outside, you know, he knows that this is something that's been eating at me for a long time, where I feel that I have to share so that others don't feel lonely, so that others can feel like there is a way out. Because despite being punched at every stage of life,
like from the age
I'm
of
here.
Since birth, actually. Since birth.
Yes.
Just one knock after the other. And if someone saw you today, they would not believe that you've been through all that. I mean, I didn't know until you we had this conversation. So I think the best way is to just sort of wrap it up here and then bring you back again. So I guess we'll do a recap and then we'll continue the story, because it will be good to then see how you went from all that to the amazing, I would say, amazing life you're living now, by God's grace.
By God's grace.
Yes, the amazing life you're living now. I mean, you know, in comparison to everything you've just shared, I mean, we all think we had a tough life, and then another story, and you're like, oh, flip, my life was amazing. You know.
Definitely.
You know,
even my own story, like you can hear somebody else.
Yeah, they'll be like, okay.
Yeah.
Mine was posh.
Mine wasn't that bad.
But thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Thank you for opening up. I'm going to be really reflecting on some of the things you've said, and I think for me anyway, when I hear of humans, I mean, we behave badly sometimes on silly things, but when humans really behave badly, I just find it strange. I can't comprehend it, because I know I can do some of those things, and you're like, how can someone bring themselves to that point where you start doing these nasty things, maybe your auntie or your uncle or these people, and you think, don't you remember that one day these people can stand on their feet and fight their fight? You know,
but they always want your failure. But I think to that point, we also have to be honest with ourselves and not just say yes to looking after somebody else if we're not ready for it. I feel that is something that within our community it's okay to say no. It's okay to say, like, I can't look after this child because it's too much. And not just take that responsibility and then abuse the power that you have.
Fantastic. It's been amazing having you on the show. Thank you very much. We'll arrange a date to bring you back, hopefully very quickly, just to so for continuity's sake.
I don't want to be talking about heavy stuff when Christmas is around the corner.
But it's been myself, Enoch, and the wonderful Janet on the show today. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. We've had a great time, if we can call it that. We've had a reflective time.
Yes, absolutely.
And for everyone listening, thank you very much for listening, and catch you on the next show. Bye-bye.